Welcome to the Sykes & Company PA video blog.
The financing and the requirements for a startup pharmacy are rather large. Bonnie and I will tell potential pharmacy owners at the NCPA ownership workshops that you need to have a minimum of $500,000 of either debt or equity or a combination of debt and equity available. And in many respects, you may need even more. Once you inject and or borrow that initial money for the startup pharmacy, you will be tying up all the assets of the entity. You'll probably be having to personally guarantee it, especially if you get an SBA backed loan from a pharmacy niche bank. And you will not be in a position to borrow further and future monies until you are most likely cash flow positive, unless you've got angel investors or family members that will be desirous of injecting further funds into the business. But you need to clearly plan on significant amount of money that's needed. And now we constantly get hit with the fact, well, I can do it for $250,000, or I can do it for 300,000, or I'm going to get an inventory loan from my wholesaler and he's going to delay payment maybe for 3 or 6 months. And all that's well and good, but we can assure you from the experience we have in this business, which is many decades long, that if you are undercapitalized and you run out of cash, you literally could grow yourself to death as you begin to leg up in terms of your buying from your wholesaler. And with the permanent delay between the time you adjudicate a claim and the time you'll have to pay your bill, if you run out of cash flow, you're dead.
Yeah. The most success we see with these startups as far as financing is concerned is when they are with a pharmacy niche bank that understands the industry and understands the cash flow needs, understands the receivables and how that works with a pharmacy. We see a lot of situations where these startups use a local bank, a hometown bank, and they're underfunded because that bank doesn't understand the pharmacy and the cash flow. And then when they run out of money in 6 months and they go back to that bank, they're not going to get any more funding from them. So it's important to really think about that when you're starting that process of financing, to make sure that you're working with a pharmacy niche bank that understands truly what it's like for a startup in those first 18 months to 2 years.
And a lot of times, Bonnie, we have a hard time convincing potential pharmacy owners that that local banker they know, or that local relationship they have with that banker, and or the same thing applies to other professionals, whether it's a CPA or attorney that knows maybe nothing about pharmacy. They're not your friends in this situation. And most banks don't look at the cash flow opportunities that a pharmacy offers, and what they want is hard collateral assets. And you typically will have to go outside and use personal assets or family assets to tie up and to get the funds that are needed. And you don't have to do that typically with the SBA 7A loans that most of the pharmacy niche banks are using in that process, properly structured. And we just briefly mentioned, please use professionals that work in this industry. Close these kinds of loans continuously and daily, and the accounting professionals that deal in this profession on an ongoing, consistent, constant basis. As we tell many pharmacists, this is not rocket science what we do from an accounting and tax perspective, but it's totally different from a regular retail arrangement. Unless you're familiar with the aspects of it in a startup situation, you'd be far better off searching the web, looking for those that are specialists in this particular area and using them.
So in those first few months of opening the store, once you have your financing in place, it's also important to continue to protect that working capital and make sure you have as much as possible as that store is growing. Because from day one, you're not going to just start out with a tremendous amount of sales in most cases. So that it's going to take some time to build that up. So you want to save as much money and have working capital available as possible. A couple ways to do that. A lot of the pharmacy niche lenders will allow some grace periods for your payments. They may delay payments, or they may also just offer interest-only payments for a certain period of time to give you time to build up your volume there at the store. Also, a lot of the wholesalers will offer some dating options that'll allow you that grace period of time where you can begin to order, but you may not have to start making payments until maybe 6 months out. So it's just things to look at. Any of these things that offer you little to no interest for those periods of time where you can have cash available is definitely something to look into.
And in a pharmacy situation, as far as capital is concerned, you really cannot have too much.
Yeah.
And you might think, well, I can get through this period of time, maybe the first 6 months, I'm doing okay. But as you start to grow and the pharmacy starts to prosper, and as you get into maybe some other areas, or maybe some clinical areas or things of that nature, or maybe some nutraceuticals, as you begin to explore where you can take this startup, assuming that this is going to take time to really get cash flow really moving, cash is king in this situation. And the absolute worst problem you can be in is not have the cash flow in order to take care of your current accounts payable and any term debt that you have and payments. And as Bonnie mentioned, any kind of arrangements that you can get with dating, any kind of interest only for a period of time, can assist and aid in that whole cash flow aspect and whole financing arrangement to make sure that you got the adequate working capital. What great problem to have if you got 18 months, 2 years, and you just had hundreds of thousands of dollars of extra cash too much. There'd be certainly many places you probably could find very quickly to place that, whether it's technology, and ultimately it may be, if you're that successful, it may be debt pay down. But once you pay down that debt, reborrowing that money again, I'd be very careful of. These are just kinds of things that you need to be aware of.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel.